What happens when a woman who has spent years fighting to reclaim her own voice walks onto a stage where millions tune in just to question it? What happens when the world expects her to stay silent, but she decides on live television that she won't swallow one more word? That was the atmosphere inside the studio when Meghan Markle stepped onto The View, the lights slicing across the room like sharp blades, every camera already hunting for the tension they could sense brewing in the air. Before we dive into this explosive moment, make sure you subscribe to Talk Flair, hit that like button, and drop a comment right now. Because what you're about to hear is one of the most heated confrontations daytime television has ever witnessed. The applause was polite, but not warm. Not hostile, but not welcoming. It was the kind of applause that sounds like it's waiting for something to go wrong. Meghan walked out with her head held high, the soft click of her heels echoing across the polished stage floor. Her dress was a calm, neutral color, intentional, no doubt, but her eyes, dark and steady, carried a storm that the audience couldn't quite read yet. Sunny Hostin leaned forward before Meghan had even taken her seat. There was a certain sharpness in her expression. Not cruelty, but a conviction that suggested she'd been waiting for this moment. The tension between them wasn't fabricated. It wasn't for cameras. It wasn't staged. It was real, old, and simmering. "Meghan Markle," Sunny said, almost exhaling the name. "Thank you for being here." Meghan smiled, tight but gracious, and nodded. "Thank you for having me." But it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The other hosts glanced between them, sensing what the room already felt. This wasn't going to be one of those soft, PR-friendly interviews where everyone plays nice. No, this felt different. This felt like the prelude to an earthquake. Joy Behar tried easing the mood with a joke, but no one really laughed. The audience was too focused on the two women sitting directly across from each other, Meghan and Sunny, like two forces of nature aligning on collision course. Sunny didn't waste time. "Meghan, your name has been at the center of controversy for years now. A lot of people feel you've shared your truth, but not the truth. And I want to know, do you think you've been fully honest with the public?" The air thickened. Several audience members leaned forward. Meghan inhaled slowly, but she didn't break eye contact. "My truth is the truth," Meghan said softly, but there was steel in her voice. "The problem is people think I owe them every detail of my pain." Sunny raised her eyebrows as if she expected that answer, but still found it unsatisfying. "But pain isn't the issue here. Facts are. There are people who believe parts of your story don't add up, and they feel you've created a narrative that paints you as a victim." The room exhaled in disbelief. Audible gasps, a few murmurs, a shifting tension that rippled through the audience like heat waves. Meghan's expression didn't crack, but something in her posture shifted. Her chin lifted a little. Her eyes sharpened. "I didn't create anything," Meghan said. "I survived. And survival doesn't always look like a story people want to hear." Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair, as if preparing for the storm she knew was coming. Sarah Haynes blinked rapidly, her hands tightening around her note cards. Even the stage lights seemed to hum louder, the cameras creeping closer. Sunny didn't relent. "But don't you think that when you speak publicly, on such massive platforms, you have an obligation to be transparent? Completely transparent?" Meghan's jaw tightened. There it was, the crackle of anger beneath the calm surface, a flicker of something held back for too long. "Do you?" Meghan asked suddenly. Sunny froze. "Excuse me? Do you tell the world everything you've been through? Every single thing that's hurt you?" Meghan asked, her voice calm but cutting. "Because I doubt it. So why do I have to?" A few audience members applauded, scattered at first, then louder. One person even shouted, "That's right." The rawness of Meghan's response electrified the room. Sunny lifted her chin. "Because you've made yourself a public figure in a very unique way. People are going to question inconsistencies." Meghan leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a level intimate enough to quiet the entire room. "I didn't make myself a public figure," she said. "People made me one. The media made me one. The world made me one. I didn't ask to be chased, dissected, picked apart, turned into a headline or a villain depending on the day. I didn't ask for any of that." Sunny's expression tightened. "Then why step into the spotlight again? Why do interviews? Why write books? Why continue engaging with the very system you claim to be hurt by?" Meghan's breathing slowed. Her fingers, resting gently on her lap, curled slightly, as if gripping the last pieces of composure she had left. "Because silence," she said, "didn't protect me. It nearly destroyed me." The room went silent. Heavy, emotional, raw. Meghan continued, her voice trembling, not weak, but fueled by something deep and long suppressed. There were years when I was told to say nothing, to smile and pretend everything was perfect, to endure things that broke me in ways no one will ever fully understand. So I decided that if people were going to talk about me every day, they were at least going to hear my voice, not the one the tabloids created. Sunny's jaw tightened, but her eyes flickered with something, doubt, reflection, maybe even empathy, but it vanished quickly. But Meghan, Sunny said, some people think you haven't given the full story, that maybe you've left out things that matter. Meghan inhaled sharply. You don't know the truth, she said quietly, but with an intensity that reverberated through the studio. You know what the world speculates. You know what headlines tell you. But you don't know my truth. You don't know the truth behind the closed doors I lived behind. So don't claim that I haven't told enough when you don't know the weight of what I'm choosing not to share. A wave of stunned murmurs swept across the room. Sunny blinked, taken aback, not defeated, but momentarily shaken by the force of Meghan's words. The cameras zoomed in. The audience held its breath. The energy in the studio had shifted from tense to explosive, like a match had been dropped into gasoline. And this was only the beginning. The silence after Meghan's words pressed down on the studio like a heavy curtain. Cameras hummed. The audience watched without blinking. Even the hosts seemed unsure whether to breathe, speak, or simply let the weight of the moment settle. Meghan had struck something raw, not just in Sunny, but in everyone watching. Sunny crossed her legs slowly, gathering herself. There was a flicker in her eyes, something calculating but controlled. She wasn't backing down. Not here, not now. All right, she said, her voice steady but a shade quieter. If there are things you're choosing not to share, doesn't that leave room for misunderstanding? Room for people to doubt your story? Meghan didn't flinch. People doubt me no matter what I say, she replied. That's the part you're not understanding. It doesn't matter if I reveal something deeply personal or keep it private. It gets twisted either way. Joy Behar lifted her hands slightly, as though to signal a shift. To be fair, Meghan, some people have very strong opinions about you. She raised an eyebrow. Like really strong. The audience laughed nervously, but Meghan didn't. Meghan slowly looked from Joy to Sunny, then to the audience, an entire crowd staring at her not as a person, but as a symbol of controversy, conflict, betrayal, resilience, whatever label suited the day. All of this started, she said, because I married someone I loved. Sunny interjected softly. But you know it became more than that. I know, Meghan said. But people talk about my marriage, my decisions, my family, my character, as if they have lived my life for me. She paused, voice cracking ever so slightly. As if they understand what I lost. As if they understand what I fought to protect. Sara Haines leaned forward, unable to hold back. What did you feel you were protecting? Meghan swallowed, and the tremble in her throat was visible now. My sanity, she whispered. My child. Myself. The audience reacted with a mix of sympathy and surprise. Meghan's arms folded, not defensively, but like she was holding herself together. Her voice dropped, warm at the edges but burning in the center. Everyone says I should just let the past go, Meghan said. But the past doesn't let go of me. Every day, someone writes a new version of my life I never lived. And I'm tired, exhausted, of being a character in other people's stories. Sunny nodded slowly, tapping her pen. But Meghan, when you chose to speak out about your experiences with the royal family, you opened a door that the public wasn't going to close. People want details. They want everything. And they'll never get everything, Meghan shot back. Not because I'm hiding something, but because some things, she exhaled deeply. Some things hurt too much to relive. The audience breathed out collectively, as though exhaling for her. Whoopi finally stepped in. I think we need to remember, she said, her tone grounded, that trauma doesn't come with a guidebook. You don't have to unpack everything in public for it to be real. Sunny turned slightly toward Whoopi, but kept her attention locked on Meghan. I hear you, she said, but the reality is the public has questions. And some feel you've contradicted yourself over the years. The statement hung in the air like a blade. Meghan blinked, stunned, but only for a moment. Then something fierce and unshakable flared in her stare. Contradicted myself? She repeated. Sunny didn't back down. Yes. Some interviews have painted different pictures of the same situations. People wonder which version is the real one. Meghan leaned in, shoulders tight, her voice low but pulsing with conviction. When you're traumatized, she said, your story doesn't come out perfectly polished. It comes out in fragments. It comes out when you're ready. It comes out differently on different days because you're still figuring out how to talk about what you survived. A murmur ran through the crowd. Many nodded. A few whispered. The truth in her words was unmistakable, even to those who didn't want to hear it. And in those moments, Meghan continued, people didn't listen to the pain. They listened for inconsistencies, for mistakes, for ways to call me a liar. Sunny inhaled sharply. Meghan, no one is calling you a liar. Yes, they are, Meghan interrupted, her voice rising but steady. Maybe not here. Maybe not you. But out there? Every day. Every headline. Every social media post dissecting my entire existence. Her hands were shaking now, just slightly. The camera zoomed in, catching every tremor, every flicker of fire in her expression. I never lied, Meghan said. I told the parts of the truth I could handle telling. And people punished me for not giving them more. The audience erupted in applause, loud, emotional, almost protective. Sunny's expression softened, not surrendering, but acknowledging the vulnerability she had just witnessed. I understand where you're coming from, she said carefully. But Meghan, when you say people don't know the truth, it creates this sense that there's something major being hidden. Meghan stared at her, unblinking. There is something major being hidden, she said. The room froze. Sunny leaned forward. By whom? Meghan pressed her lips together, fighting back something. Anger, maybe, grief, definitely. She chose her next words with excruciating precision. By everyone who was there, she said. People who protected an institution instead of me. People who decided my voice was inconvenient. Someone in the audience gasped loudly. Sunny swallowed. So, you're saying the institution. I'm saying, Meghan cut in, that for years people told me what version of myself I was allowed to show the world. And when I finally broke free and told my truth, suddenly I'm the one who's dishonest. Her voice cracked, not weak, but full, overflowing, unstoppable. I lost friends. I lost family. I lost myself at one point. And I'm still trying to piece that woman back together. So when you sit here and say I might not be telling the full truth, her eyes burned, suddenly glassy. Understand that the truth broke me once already. And I'm still afraid of what might happen if I let it break me again. A profound stillness settled over the studio. Sunny's face softened, a fraction of empathy bleeding through the armor. But the confrontation wasn't over. Not even close. Because Meghan wasn't finished. She straightened her posture, wiped a quiet tear from the corner of her eye, and looked directly into the camera. Speaking not just to Sunny, not just to the hosts, but to the millions waiting to judge her next breath. This isn't about whether I've told enough, she said. This is about whether people want the truth, or just the version of it that gives them someone to blame. The audience applauded again, louder, more unified. But Sunny still had one question, one the whole world had been waiting for her to ask. And when she finally spoke, the temperature in the room dropped instantly. Meghan, what is the truth you're not telling? The audience gasped. Meghan stared at Sunny, silent. Then slowly she leaned forward. And the real confrontation began. Meghan didn't speak at first. She simply looked at Sunny, and the silence between them grew heavy enough to make the audience shift in their seats. The cameras zoomed closer, catching every small nuance. The tense corners of Meghan's mouth, the flicker of unease behind Sunny's eyes, the way the other hosts instinctively pulled back as though they were witnessing something volcanic forming at the center of the table. Sunny repeated her question, slower this time. Meghan, what is the truth you're not telling? Meghan exhaled, long and trembling. You're asking me to open a door that I've kept locked for years, she said. And you're asking me to do it here, on live television. Sunny didn't blink. I'm asking because this is your chance. To clarify, to put everything out there, to reclaim your narrative. And what if putting everything out there, Meghan whispered, means burning bridges I never wanted to destroy? Whoopi cleared her throat gently. Truth doesn't always have to be destructive, she said. Sometimes it just needs to be stated plainly. Meghan shook her head. Not this truth. The audience murmured, an orchestra of whispers building behind them like a rising tide. Meghan lifted her gaze toward the crowd, her expression softened by something deeply human. Fear, vulnerability, and a determination she was still trying to gather. You want to know what I haven't said? Meghan continued. It's not some shocking event. It's not a scandal or a secret meeting or a hidden agenda. It's something simpler, but heavier. Sunny leaned in. Then say it. Meghan looked down at her hands for a moment before speaking, her voice barely above a breath. I haven't told the world how alone I really was. The audience stilled. She lifted her head. Everyone thinks they know what happened. The interviews. The articles. The headlines. But those were the parts one could talk about. The parts one could wrap words around. What I didn't talk about were the nights I cried on the floor because I felt like the entire world hated me and didn't even know me. Or the mornings I woke up afraid to open my phone because I didn't know what new lie was trending about me. Sunny held her gaze, her expression softer but still searching. But Meghan. No, Meghan said gently but firm. Let me finish. She placed her hands flat on the table, grounding herself. I didn't tell people that I was given a choice between being silent or being destroyed. Her voice trembled but didn't break. I didn't say how many times I was told, directly and indirectly, that my pain didn't matter because it didn't fit the narrative people wanted. Sara leaned forward, her voice barely a whisper. Narrative from who? Meghan looked at her, then at the audience, then at the camera itself. Everyone, she said. The media, the institution, even people who claimed to support me. They all had expectations of who I should be. The quiet duchess, the grateful outsider, the woman who wouldn't challenge centuries of tradition. Sunny nodded slowly. So you left. I left because I had to save myself, Meghan said. But even after leaving, I wasn't free. You all saw what happened. People blamed me for everything, splitting a family, influencing my husband, creating drama. No matter what I said or didn't say, I was painted as the villain. Joy shifted in her seat. Some people think you controlled the narrative. Meghan laughed bitterly. If I controlled the narrative, why does the world still call me a liar? Why does every interview turn into a debate over whether I'm telling the real truth? Sunny cleared her throat. That's exactly why I asked you what you haven't told. Meghan leaned back, eyes sharp, voice calm but simmering with years of suppressed fire. What I haven't told, she said slowly, is that sometimes I wish I had just told everything. Every detail. Every conversation. Every humiliation. Everything that happened behind the scenes that people would never believe unless they saw it themselves. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Sunny blinked. Are you saying there are things you could expose? Yes, Meghan said bluntly. Sara inhaled sharply. Joy's jaw dropped. Whoopi's eyes widened only slightly, but even that was enough to show the magnitude of Meghan's confession. Meghan continued, her voice low and razor-edged. I've protected people who never protected me. I've stayed silent about things that kept me up at night. I've swallowed truths that could shatter reputations because I didn't want to be the person who tore apart a family or an institution or a legacy. Sunny's voice was barely steady. Then why not speak now? Meghan looked right at her. Because the world doesn't want the truth. The world wants a spectacle. A wave of murmurs filled the room. But that's the irony, Meghan added. If I told them everything, they wouldn't call me a liar anymore. They'd call me something worse. Sunny frowned. What could be worse than being called a liar? Meghan leaned forward again, her eyes filled with a quiet storm that seemed ready to burst. A traitor, she whispered. The word hit Sunny like a slap. It knocked the air out of the room. Joy stopped fidgeting. Sara's hand went to her mouth. Whoopi blinked twice, slowly, carefully. The entire studio seemed to freeze in suspended animation. Sunny regrouped first. Meghan, are you saying you stayed silent to protect the royal family? Meghan didn't answer immediately. Her eyes glistened, not with weakness, but with clarity. I'm saying, she whispered, that if I ever told the entire truth, the world would never look at them the same way again. A chill spread across the audience, rolling through like a silent wind. A few gasped. Others covered their mouths. The tension tightened, palpable, electric. Sunny swallowed hard. So you're telling us there is more. Something big. Meghan didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. She simply stared, her silence saying everything and nothing at the same time. I'm telling you, she finally said, that sometimes the truth is too dangerous to speak. The audience erupted. Not in applause, not in boos, but in a cacophony of whispers, gasps, murmurs, and stunned reactions. On social media, phones lit up in people's laps as viewers typed frantically, recording clips, sending messages, trying to understand what they had just heard. Sunny wasn't finished. Her voice was almost a whisper now. Meghan, one last question. Meghan's gaze snapped to hers. If the truth is so dangerous, then why come here? Why sit at this table? Why open yourself up again? Meghan breathed in deeply, a long inhale as though she were drawing in years of hurt. Then she exhaled slowly, her shoulders settling with a strange mix of exhaustion and resolve. Because I'm done letting other people tell my story, she said. And if I don't speak, if I don't stand up, then the lies win. A powerful silence followed. Then Sunny asked the question that would push the confrontation into full eruption. Then tell us, Meghan, who are the people who silenced you? Meghan froze. The audience froze. The hosts froze. And in that instant, Meghan realized she stood at the crossroads between revelation and devastation. And she wasn't sure which path she could take. For a moment, no one in the studio moved. Not a breath, not a blink, not even the hum of the cameras seemed loud enough to break the tension. Sunny's question lingered in the air like a live wire. Who are the people who silenced you? Meghan felt the weight of every eye in the room press into her skin. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She could feel her throat tighten, not from fear, but from the gravity of what answering this question would unleash. She had been cornered before, blamed, dissected, torn apart. But never had she been asked so directly, so brutally, to name names. Not like this. Meghan slowly looked away from Sunny and let her gaze drift across the audience. The front row stared with wide, expectant eyes. Phones trembled in people's hands, forgotten, as if even the instinct to record couldn't override the shock of the moment. And the hosts, Joy biting her lip, Sara staring in disbelief, Whoopi frozen, waited for something they knew might change everything. Meghan inhaled. Then she closed her eyes. You want the truth, she said, opening them again. You want the names, the details, the entire map of how everything happened. Sunny didn't speak. She didn't need to. The question was already tattooed onto the air between them. Meghan leaned forward slightly, her voice lower and steadier than before. If I say the names, if I tell the world who silenced me, then this becomes a war. And I'm not starting a war. Sunny's eyes narrowed. So you're protecting them. I'm protecting myself, Meghan said sharply. And my children. Because if the full truth comes out, the consequences won't just fall on them. They'll fall on me too. The audience murmured in confusion. A few nodded. Others exchanged panicked whispers. Everyone was hungry for the one answer Meghan seemed determined not to give. Sunny pressed again. But Meghan, don't you think the world deserves honesty? Don't you think the people watching right now, who stood by you, who defended you, deserve to know what you went through? Meghan's breath caught. Her jaw tightened. I never asked the world to defend me, she said. I asked them to understand me. Sunny didn't back down. But understanding requires clarity. Meghan's eyes flashed, hurt first, then resolve. Clarity, she said, doesn't require exposing the people who hurt me. It requires exposing the impact. Sunny seemed taken aback by the answer. The audience stilled again. Meghan continued. So if you want clarity, here it is. I was silenced by a system. A machine. A network of people whose job is to preserve an image, not protect individuals. I was told where to go, what to wear, what to say, and more importantly, what not to say. Her voice trembled, but she didn't break. I was told that my feelings didn't matter, that my well-being was secondary to tradition, that I was expected to endure quietly. A hush overtook the room. Even Sunny's expression had softened, though she fought to maintain composure. Meghan pressed on. I'm not naming individuals because that doesn't fix anything. It just fuels gossip. It feeds the beast that already tried to tear me apart. Her voice cracked, raw and human. I'm not here to destroy people. I'm here to reclaim myself. The audience erupted in applause, loud, thunderous, almost overwhelming. Meghan closed her eyes again, soaking it in as though it steadied her heartbeat. Sunny raised a hand, waiting for the applause to settle. But Meghan, she said softly, do you understand why people are frustrated? Why they feel like you're always on the edge of a revelation without ever sharing it? It feels incomplete. Meghan opened her eyes, and for the first time, there was something defiant in them. My healing is not a cliffhanger, she said. It's not something I owe the public. It's something I owe myself. Joy let out a slow breath, as though she'd been holding it for minutes. That's a powerful statement, she murmured. Meghan's voice steadied again. For years, I let people narrate my story. The tabloids, the commentators, the critics, even the institution. Everyone decided who I was before I even had the chance to speak for myself. She looked toward the audience again. So if you're frustrated, if you want more answers, understand that I'm still learning how to speak without fear. Sunny leaned back, the challenge in her eyes replaced by something closer to respect. So you won't name anyone? No, Meghan said. But I will say this. Silence protects institutions. Speaking protects people. And today, I'm choosing people, including myself. The audience applauded again, this time softer, more emotional, not a roar but a resonance. Sunny cleared her throat, her voice softened. Thank you for saying that. Meghan nodded, eyes shimmering but unbroken. Whoopi finally jumped in, her tone warm and grounding. Sometimes, she said, telling the truth is less about names and more about finally being able to breathe. Meghan nodded again, this time more deeply. Exactly. Sara leaned forward softly. Do you feel like you're breathing now? Meghan let out a shaky exhale, a release that felt like years collapsing into one moment. I'm getting there, she whispered. The audience clapped again, moved by the vulnerability, the restraint, the fire wrapped in gentleness. Sunny watched her thoughtfully now. Meghan, she said quietly, I might not agree with everything, but I respect the strength it takes to sit here and hold your ground. Meghan's eyes softened. Thank you. Sunny paused. And I hope one day you feel safe enough to tell the full story, whatever it is. Meghan looked down, then up. Maybe one day, she said. But not today. And with that, the most explosive moment in the interview dissolved into a fragile, breathless quiet. One that held not tension, but understanding. As the show wrapped, the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Meghan blinked back tears, caught off guard by the gentleness in the room. Sunny nodded once, acknowledgement, respect, surrender. And across social media, within seconds, clips from the confrontation exploded. Meghan refuses to name names. The truth is too dangerous. Sunny hostin presses, Meghan pushes back. Tension like the View has never seen. Comment sections flooded with shock, support, criticism, defense, anger, empathy. The world had just witnessed not a scandal, but a wound. And Meghan finally owned the space around it. As the screen faded to black, the narrator's voice, your voice, pulls the audience into the final moment. If you were in that room, what truth do you think Meghan meant? Was she right to stay silent, or should she have revealed it all? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And for more explosive, emotional, cinematic confrontations just like this one, don't forget to subscribe to Talk Flair. New stories are always on the way, and trust me, you won't want to miss the next one.